The School of Hard Knocks 22 took place at the Century Casino in Calgary. Professional and amateur fighters from across Canada battled it out in the Hard Knocks cage.
To the School of Hard Knocks.
This School of Hard Knocks fight is a professional bout in the 155-pound division and is brought to you by Essential Energy, providing oil field services to oil and gas producers in Western Canada. And now, let's meet the fighters. Coming to you, he is Steve Sims.
Now it's time for our main event of the evening. Coming to us first out of TriStar in Toronto, Ontario, Steve Sims coming down to the cage, weighed in at 160 pounds, 3-0 as a professional, 28 years old, stands 5'9", and has won by submission in all 3 fights so far in his career. So we'll see what Steve Sims can do here as he gets set to take on James Haddad in our main event of the evening.
And his opponent, please welcome James Haddad.
Now coming down to face off against Steve Sims is James Haddad. Haddad comes to us out of the Gracie Baja gym here in Calgary as he gets a 4-2 start to his professional career. The very first amateur to move to pro here in the Hard Knocks Fighting Championship. Of course, James Haddad, a very frequent competitor on the Hard Knocks cards in the early days of the Hard Knocks Fighting Championship as an amateur. Moved to pro and has since compiled that 4-2 record and is looking for more experience. Hasn't fought here in Calgary in 4 fights and says he's happy to be home and happy to be in front of the hometown fans. Now for the official introductions, we go to the center of the cage with Jay Dance.
And now, the official Hard Knocks fighter introductions. In the Rig Pig Apparel blue corner, he's 3-0 as a professional, stands 5 feet, 9 inches tall. He weighed in at 161 pounds, fighting out of TriStar from Montreal. Please welcome Hard Knocks fighter, Steve Sims! And in the Two Amigos Moving and Storage red corner, he's 4-2 as a professional, stands 5 feet, 9 inches tall. He weighed in at 159.5 pounds, fighting out of Gracie Baja from Calgary. Please welcome Hard Knocks fighter, James the Bad Haddad. This bout will be contested under professional rules. The referee in charge of the Hard Knocks action is Mr. Brian Beauchamp.
Okay, gentlemen, we went over my instructions in the back room. I want a clean, fair fight. Protect yourself at all times. Obey my command at all times. Let's touch gloves, make it official.
Brian Beauchamp with some final instructions for our fighters in our main event of the evening as James Haddad comes back to the Hard Knocks Fighting Championship to take on Steve Sims out of TriStar and Couture in Ontario and Quebec.
And you look for these fighters to feel each other out. Both these guys are pretty good. Big swing by Steve Sims, maybe trying to end this fight in one shot.
Well, always a good idea to get your paycheck and go home as quick as possible.
Nice leg attack there by Steve Sims. Again, just getting to the legs, not necessarily finishing. Haddad in, nice pickup by Sims. Needs to look out, though, if he ends up. Nice slam there by Sims.
Again, a very skilled practitioner of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is James Haddad, training out of the Gracie Baja camp, but Sims doing a very good job of staying on top at this in the early going here of round number 1 of a 3-round, 5-minute fight. At this point, looks like Sims is trying to pass, trying to go over the guard of Haddad.
And Haddad locking that back up. You see a good strategy here by Sims by pushing Haddad's head up against the cage. It doesn't allow him to be able to move as well. Haddad needs to be able to spin his head around to be able to work more of his jiu-jitsu. Now transferring to a half guard here.
You can hear the corner of James Haddad telling him, you're in the half guard, you know what to do next. And we'll be curious to see whether or not Haddad's able to follow through on those instructions, as it looks now like he may be in some danger as Sims dropping a big elbow onto the head of Haddad.
James Haddad has got a tough chin, though. When he fought against Steve Beaumont hit him with some huge shots, and Haddad just kept on coming for that fight. Cardio a bit of an issue, but you look at Steve Sims, very dominant position here. He seems to have Haddad in nice control. Look for Haddad to try and escape here if Sims gives him even a little bit of space to get out.
And it looks like that space was given, although a takedown now secured by Haddad has Sims up against the cage.
And again, these guys are both very, very good professional fighters. I know James tried out to see if he could get on the Ultimate Fighter. Wasn't able to make the final cuts, but did get some phone calls and some interest from that submission. So obviously, both these fighters are very good, and looking forward to finishing this main event up.
Haddad has Sims up against the cage, secures another takedown. Sims, though, pops right back up and looks again for a choke. Haddad tucking the chin to keep the choke out away from being a concern. Sims rolling him over, though, trying to put a little more torque on that neck.
A little bit of a mouse here on the left eye of James Haddad, probably from that first elbow that dropped down. And we'll continue to monitor that as we go through. Good control here by Steve Sims.
Sims doing a very good job of holding Haddad up against the cage. Haddad secured a couple takedowns of his own and moved around, but for the most part this round it's been Sims on top.
And just some danger here. Again, you take the fight to James and you're able to control, but if you leave James the time, he's a very intelligent fighter, he'll be able to pick you apart. So good job by Steve Sims by continuing motion. Good continuity here by Steve Sims.
And trying to continually advance his position. It looks as though James Haddad might have gotten out, but now finds himself in a bit of a dangerous position. Sims on his back, but Haddad doing a good job of rolling into Sims to try and keep that away. But Sims, again, nice scramble there, gets behind Haddad and may have a rear naked choke in here. We saw this just moments ago from another couture fighter out of Ontario as he steps in, and Haddad tries to roll away but is unsuccessful.
And there needs to be some patience here. Right now, James has got his chin underneath here, and he is fighting those hands, so not a danger of tapping out yet. And Steve Sims doing a good job. He's not squeezing overly hard. He's squeezing tight, but not hard, and able to pop out. Now, what I mentioned about squeezing hard and a nice front head and arm here by James Haddad as he looks to finish, and a nice knee as soon as he comes up. But a great takedown back by Steve Sims.
Just 20 seconds left here in round number 1 as Steve Sims in the black trunks on top of James Haddad in the red trunks in our main event of the evening here at the School of Hard Knocks 22, a presentation of the Hard Knocks Fighting Championship. Just 10 seconds left now in round number 1, and we will likely get to a break here momentarily, and the fighters will have 60 seconds to regroup. Haddad and Sims come out to the center of the cage. An immediate shot by Sims. Why take away from what was working? And Haddad tries to defend with a head and arm.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that James didn't try and counter that takedown. Chose to go down to the ground, and you know, we've seen this before, where fighters defend leg attack with a guillotine and hoping that's enough to defend it. But you look at James Haddad in a down position, but now looking to come on top. He's got the hips up, but unable to get Steve Sims over.
A very solid performance on top of James Haddad is what we've gotten from Steve Sims thus far. As he continues to work this dominant position, now trying to slide out of the half guard into side control. And tries to hop up, but is unsuccessful. Again, Haddad still has that one leg, but now side control achieved for Steve Sims, and we'll see what he can do from here.
He's going to try and pin down that near side arm and step over with his leg. Actually, it looks like he's looking to switch to a mount. Back to side control goes James Haddad, back to half guard goes James Haddad, able to slip his way back in there, but Steve Sims being effective on top.
Sims looking for the elbow and gets a no distance elbow, but still drives down the head of James Haddad. Another punch to the neck. Again, trying to bust free is Steve Sims. And trying to loosen up one of those hands and get working on the ground and pound.
At that point there, when James Haddad was in on the legs, what he needs to do is try and get back up to a neutral position by posting a wrist and coming out. I'm concerned that he seems content to stay down underneath Steve Sims, but Steve Sims is doing a fantastic job at trying to leave James Haddad with no options.
Haddad trying to sneak out the back, but Sims postures up and gives him a couple punches for his trouble. Sims now spinning around, trying to get the back of Haddad. Haddad looked like he was trying to roll over and maybe find himself an arm bar, but no luck.
And back to guard, now they go. Crowd urging for a stand-up.
We've got ourselves a jiu-jitsu match at this point, with both fighters spending the majority of the time on the ground, but Steve Sims finding himself in the dominant position through majority of the first two rounds thus far. 2 minutes remaining here in round number 2.
And the reason the referee's not standing him up is you look at Steve Sims continues to advance his position. There's never a pause. He doesn't sit and wait, and I'm sure that if he ever did, the referee would stand them up, but he continues to advance. He goes from guard to half guard to side control, hoping to get a mount, but James Haddad going back and getting that half guard again.
Both fighters doing a good job of advancing their position, but it can't be good for James Haddad, who now finds himself with a slam of his own and throws a couple punches to Steve Sims, who suddenly finds himself on the bottom. A big knee to the chest, and that one being called off as a knee to the head of a downed opponent, which is not legal. Timeout being called. They're gonna give Steve Sims a moment to recover, and it looked to me, although I'm waiting for a replay on it if we can get one here real quick, it looked to me as though that knee went to the chest, although the referee's position different from mine, and could have maybe seen some contact to the head of the downed opponent, perhaps the bottom of the chin or something. No point being deducted, just a warning here for that knee, and James Haddad will find himself standing with Steve Sims.
The legs again. See, this is a better job of defending. He gets his legs back, gets that front head pinch position. Let's see if he can try and finish with it. And he is going to a guillotine. He's got it in fairly deep. Trying to hip in is James Haddad. Arm in guillotine though, so not as much pressure. We're down to 40 seconds on our featurefights.ca, but he's got this in nice and tight. Needs to hip in if he wants to be able to finish this off.
Looks like Sims is going to be able to pop out, and he does. Getting out of that hold, it looked like the Gracie Baja fighter from Calgary had a shot at getting this fight to end, but Steve Sims doing a very good job of getting out and getting the job done. Again, very skilled in jiu-jitsu is Steve Sims.
Yeah, excellent show of jiu-jitsu here against even James Haddad, who's in himself a very good jiu-jitsu practitioner. Doing well to defend is James Haddad, and now some blows being rained down. Perhaps the knee to the chest head region was enough to shake something out of here. 10 seconds remain in the round.
So again, Steve Sims with James Haddad's back, but not threatening from this point. We are likely to reach the end of round number 2, and we'll go to a third and final round.
In this time, continuous control, and a nice elbow there to James Haddad.
Again, working in the TriStar gym with the level of training partners and coaches that are available in that gym certainly seems to have done the trick for Steve Sims, who is 2.5 minutes away from a decision victory if the fight continues in this fashion, as James Haddad will have to do something here to finish the fight. If he wants any chance of winning it, it's got to be by a finish. And in the short term, it is Steve Sims doing a very good job of keeping James Haddad exactly where he wants him.
This is great jiu-jitsu by Steve Sims, being able to keep him down. The unfortunate thing is, you look at these guys haven't really had a chance to strike. It's been mostly a ground fight, and again, some great jiu-jitsu here. But hopefully here, if nothing progresses, that they'll get standing up and we'll see some action for the last 30 seconds. But James Haddad, though, guard is open, so he needs to be turning into this now. And again, around the neck is Steve Sims.
Again, a good job defending the submissions from James Haddad, but has not gotten really much offense at all here in this fight. As we get to 90 seconds left in the third and final round, it's been all Steve Sims on top of James Haddad, passing his guard, getting into the side control, trying to find the mount right there, and now content again to roll on the ground. You got to be awfully confident in your skills if you always want to go right back to the ground, and that's what Steve Sims has done time and time again.
Yeah, taking him back down, another single. Haddad has got a front head and arm and a possibility for a choke here, but slipping out is Steve Sims.
And Sims continues to work the dominant position on top of James Haddad, throwing punches, continuing to move forward, and continuing to keep moving so that the referee has no reason to stand them up.
Yeah, and he continues, and a nice turn on an elbow and a really nice back elbow there. So some damage landed, but you know, at this point, it's almost too little too late unless one of those blows is able to knock him out.
James Haddad with just 30 seconds left to finish this fight, or it will be a Steve Sims decision victory, and Haddad will fall for the third consecutive time. Sims continues to land punches from the top. Again, a dominant performance on the ground here from Steve Sims. Just worked James Haddad from pillar to post through the entire 9 minutes. I would suggest maybe 60 seconds of offense mounted in this fight by James Haddad.
And that's the end of the fight, so it looks again like Steve Sims going to push his record to 4-0. The first time he's gone the distance, and he seemed again to have the cardio to continue on the entire time.
We have the official decision. It is brought to you by Essential Energy. The winner by unanimous decision, in the blue corner, Steve Sims!
Steve Sims pushing his record to 4-0.
Find out more about Hard Knocks Fighting and upcoming Hard Knocks events. Please visit hardknocksfighting.com.
And now for the official Hard Knocks Fighter introductions. In the first on-site restoration blue corner, he's 3-1 as an amateur and weighed in at 185 1/2 pounds. Fighting out of LA Warriors from La Ronge, Saskatchewan, please welcome Hard Knocks fighter Barrett Too Cool Thompson. And in the Ralph's Texas Bar and Steakhouse red corner, he's 2-1 as an amateur and weighed in at 186 pounds. fighting out of Underground Training Center from Medicine Hat, please welcome Hard Knocks fighter, Mike Gear! This bout will be contested under amateur rules. The referee in charge of the Hard Knocks action is Mr. Mark Aparicio.
Fighters to center. Okay, guys, you both know the rules. I want you to fight fair and fight hard. Obey my commands at all times. If you want to touch them up, do it now. Back to your corner.
Gear in the black trunks out of the red corner, white trunks out of the blue corner for Barrett Thompson as these two 185-pounders get set to go. A 3-inch height advantage for Barrett Thompson. Mike Gear, the much larger upper body build on the smaller fighter as he looks to get in, and a big kick early from Barrett Thompson.
Yeah, showing off that well-rounded game that Barrett Thompson has. Great check of a kick there by Barrett Thompson, and then another nice kick. Very good leg work early.
Gear coming forward. It's interesting, in talking to Barrett Thompson, never been knocked out, and he said he's been hit with a variety of things in his life and have been in several car wrecks and everything else. Says he's never been knocked out once, doesn't expect to be knocked out again here tonight, and almost leading with that chin out front.
Yeah, when you're tough and you're invincible, you look at a guy like Chuck Liddell who never, ever, ever got knocked out. And when it happens the first time, it does change you. But until then, you have what's called a granite chin. Rampage Jackson, another guy with a granite chin. So Barrett Thompson in good company there if he's not afraid to get knocked out by a big shot.
Gear finds himself now with the back of Thompson, trying to work it into a more dominant position, landing strikes from the side, hearing it from the crowd, and trying to throw Thompson to the ground, and does. Powering through is Mike Gear, a big shot to the body there, and that couldn't have felt good.
Yeah, and a knee right to the jaw as well.
Yeah, and that, again, amateur rules. No knees to the head of an opponent. Did catch him in the jaw. He will get time to recover. Mike Gear will have to head to the neutral corner, and it looks like he may see a point deducted here. We'll see if the official ends up going to the judges, and he is bringing the fighters back to center. No point deducted from Mike Gear there, but he did receive a warning, throwing the big knee, and Barrett Thompson recovering, trying to throw the back kick to Mike Gear, but Gear not getting in that range. Knocks down Thompson with a big right hand, and he's continuing to throw punches, but Barrett Thompson eager to the task as he comes forward with a knee of his own. Both fighters landing big punches here and trading and smiling as they head back towards one another.
And they are feeding off of this crowd here in Medicine Hat. Mike Gear, the hometown boy, but I can imagine that a few of those cheers might be for Barrett Thompson because he took 3 huge monster bombs and he kept on coming. And they're going right back to the game, throwing leg kicks.
Said he'd never been knocked out, proving he can take a punch or two there as he ate everything Mike Gear could feed him and just kept coming forward.
Yeah, you look at Barrett Thompson, very tough, and he landed a few shots of his own. Like it was a fair exchange at one point. Mike Gear getting a bit of a better of it at the end, but Barrett Thompson checking in and using those legs to his advantage.
Thompson lands a nice right hand as Gear gets away from the exchange. Thompson working the kicks more effectively than Gear to this point, but when Gear gets inside, he's landing the bigger of the 2 strikes.
Yeah, well, Gear's a big guy, so you can imagine that this is done. There's 2 more huge shots, and Barrett Thompson is hanging in there. He looks like no worse for wear, like you can't hurt me.
And Thompson trying the front kick, spinning over, big fist just shortly after the bell. Not intended, was a follow through on the kick. Kicked over the head, came in with the spinning back fist. A bit of a reaction from the crowd. It happened, I'm going to say, a half second late. Championship action here at the School of Hard Knocks 20, presented by the Hard Knocks Fighting Championship.
Yeah, if every round's as entertaining as that one, we'll be in for a great fight.
Again, going forward, driving forward, landing punches is Mike Gear. Gamely coming right back at him, though. Barrett Thompson trying a throw, unable to do so, and tries to get him over to the cage. Again, a green belt in judo is Barrett Thompson. Mike Gear secures the takedown, but Thompson ends up on top.
Yeah, immediately switching, a little bit of a tug on the shorts there. But there's certain points where a guy who's had a wrestling background and a judo background like Barrett Thompson, where you know you're about to get taken down. So what are you going to do when you land? And that's what Barrett Thompson did. He knew he was about to get taken down by Mike Gear, so as soon as he was landing, he was already countering on the way down. Excellent technique there by Barrett Thompson.
Gear trying to come over the top with right hands. Barrett Thompson answering them with stiff jabs. Both of these fighters landing punches and keep coming forward. You gotta love this kind of action here in a championship fight.
Now, obviously not Foreman Ali, but you can see maybe the strategy of Barrett Thompson. He's taking some big shots, but those hands are now dropping on Mike Gear. This is a 5-round fight. There is so much time left in this fight. And if Barrett Thompson can go that whole way, Mike Gear is already sucking wind.
Gear is starting to breathe a little harder as he works towards it. Hard Knocks fans will have seen him fight in a fight before that got into the late rounds. The referee breaking them up to allow Barrett Thompson's mouthpiece to go back in. And looks like they're just going to give it a bit of a wash before they put it back in his mouth.
You never know what's on the mat, but you can hear everybody around us in the crowd saying, "Breathe, Mike, breathe," and trying to get some wind back into Mike Gear. Again, a big guy, and it takes a lot of oxygen and to run those muscles.
1,000 coaches in the crowd for Mike Gear advising him to breathe. Barrett Thompson gets his mouthpiece all rinsed up and comes out firing with a right hand. Gear pacing back forward. Again, Thompson very confident in his chin, maybe content to take these punches if he thinks he can tire Gear out.
Yeah, but you look at there's not the tiring out is not Mike Gear's only thing going on. Barrett Thompson is also tiring out. Those kicks that used to be super fast are now coming in quite slow. These punches are all loopy. This one is going to be a very interesting finish.
Well, and we've seen Mike Gear in one of these wars before where it took him to the end of the third round and he was wobbled. And speaking of wobbled, here's Mike Gear chasing down Barrett Thompson, who seems to have been a little bit taken by one of the punches from Gear as Gear now works the takedown and has Thompson up against the cage.
With 20 seconds to go, this is a great thing for Mike Gear because he's getting an opportunity. He's going to get an extra 20 seconds of rest here as he's not going to push this action. He's just going to try and use this 20 seconds to win the round, and that's a nice way to put an emphasis in the judges' minds.
An exclamation point at the end of the round from Mike Gear as he lands a big shot on Barrett Thompson. Gear in the black trunks, Thompson in the white trunks as we get set for round number 3 in our championship main event. Touching gloves at center. They both get set again in what has been a very entertaining exchange of punches from both fighters.
This one, although there are some elements of MMA in here, it looks more like a very, very trained street fight at this point because these guys are just pounding one another.
And that was a very stiff right hand and answered back by Gear after Thompson landed the big one. And it looks like a low blow landed. Mike Gear certainly wincing like it was. And we've got a quick timeout here as Mike Gear will get a moment to recover. So both fighters suffering an illegal blow in this fight and getting a chance to recover. Of course, that also gives Barrett Thompson time to recover as well. Something that we saw in the first round with Mike Gear getting to recover after the knee to the jaw.
That's right. Well, it looks like they're right back at it. I figured he'd take a bit more time to rest so that we could, have a more entertaining fight. They get a fresh rest for themselves.
Well, he was allowed 5 minutes, took about one of those before getting back at it. And both these fighters starting to look exhausted as they've put everything into their opponent's chins to this point except for a knockout blow.
And we are at round 3. I'm waiting for round 4 and 5. They're going to start swinging like Rocky and Apollo Creed at that point.
Tried the big left hand, did Barrett Thompson. The stiff jab missed, and a big right swings up and catches. 2 big rights swinging up and catching Thompson, and he is not backing down as he keeps coming forward. I mean, he told me he couldn't be knocked out, I'm starting to believe it as he is eating huge punches from Mike Gear and just keeps coming forward.
He's also delivering some big shots. He's countering these shots with some straight rights and straight lefts that aren't the big loopers, and they don't make Mike Gear move back at all. But that head snaps back, and you can see the damage on Mike Gear's face. And there's another quick shot that landed very accurately on Mike Gear's face.
Now starting to build over Gear's left eye. Thompson landing that jab effectively there a couple times, and the blood now coming from the forehead of Mike Gear. And as we well know in MMA, when an opponent's face starts to bleed, that becomes the target. That's the place you want to hit him further to make it worse for him and make it harder for him to see.
Nice snap there. This is a big shot. The referee's going to watch, but it looks like a good intelligent defending by Barrett Thompson. Good snap on the leg kick on the way down. Barrett Thompson coming back up, and I'm just sitting here, and these guys, this is an entertaining fight.
Lands a big hand, does Barrett Thompson on the way out, getting a hand from the crowd. Mike Gear standing with his hands in his proverbial belt loops, wondering what he's going to have to do to put Barrett Thompson down for good. We saw it with Todd Thompson here in Medicine Hat a few months ago. I thought he'd been knocked out on 3 separate occasions, and every single time he got right back up. Barrett Thompson proving the older brother's chin is just as tough.
Yeah, we're down to our about 10 seconds left in the round now, and these two guys are getting psyched for the next round, it looks. And again, some nice punches being led. I'm thinking that all these rounds have gone to Mike Gear so far, just because he's getting the bigger of the strikes. But 5 rounds in the championship fight, and wow, are these guys putting on a show. This fight is too cool. This is amazing. These guys, the conditioning, screw it. The conditioning's not there. These guys are just throwing bombs at each other and will not go down. This is a fight.
So again, championship rounds here, round number 4, 3-minute rounds for the amateurs. And again, no knees or elbows to the head of an opponent, as well as no twisting leg locks. Although if this one goes to the ground, you can count me surprised.
Yeah, well, it might go to the ground. Mike Gear's been successful on 2 takedowns, and Barrett Thompson just gets up.
It hasn't stayed on the ground very long, I guess is what I mean. Yeah. Enough time to secure a twisting leg lock.
Yeah, of course. You know, what's more to say? I think we should just shut up and let them fight.
Stiff kick there from Gear as Thompson comes forward, lands some punches. That conditioning may come into a factor. Both of them throwing big strikes, a knee coming dangerously close to Barrett Thompson's face for the second time, and that could have cost Mike Gear, as he's already had one. He's got to be careful he doesn't have another, or he may see a point deducted, which could be very valuable as this fight comes to a close.
And after each exchange that these guys have, they look at each other and give each other
a nod.
Good job, good job. We like this. And as commentators here, it's enjoyable to watch a fight like this because both of these guys have no quit in them. Absolutely phenomenal tenacity, I guess is the best way to put it, is both these guys continue to fight.
Softer kicks coming from both as they both land a stiff jab that sends their opponent heading backwards.
Yeah, if we had one fighter come up to us and say, fight of the night, I think he might have lost at this point now.
Depending on how this one finishes, you may be right.
I don't
as
think
both these guys continue to throw punches, continue to throw kicks, and again, I mean, if you're Barrett Thompson's corner, you got to be telling me he's got to finish this fight, though, because he may be down 3 rounds at this point, despite having thrown some significant blows. Again, from an outsider's perspective, a big eyes and an ooh coming from Barrett Thompson after that punch. But again, I mean, he's eating huge right hands from an enormous man, and he is not flinching.
Well,
he's continuing to go forward.
That one hit him in the neck, and I think that was the big thing, is you just punched me in the neck. I'm coming back. And so Mike Gear's response is, I'm just going to punch you really hard.
Barrett Thompson just looked with rage at Mike Gear, saying, give me what you got, my chin can take it, and that has been accurate thus far. Now blood on the face of Barrett Thompson, blood pouring from the mouth of Mike Gear. These two guys have everything and to go here, and they continue to fight with just 5 seconds now remaining in round number 4. We're going to go to a 5th and final round, and you couldn't ask for much more from your main event.
This is an amazing battle, and the fans are going nuts.
Fans are on their feet around the cage.
This is what every fighter, they talk about bottom of the 9th, 2 outs with a few guys on, and you got to hit a home run to win. This is it right now. Barrett Thompson is in home run territory, in my opinion. You're going to look, he's going to throw. He doesn't appear to be ability to be knocked out, and Mike Gear is trying to hold on, and these guys are just amazing fighters at this point.
Well, the crowd just chanting, Mike, Mike, Mike. Again, the hometown boy getting the love from the crowd, and Barrett Thompson getting the first left hand of the 5th round. Landed another stiff jab, but he may have to finish this fight if he wants to win those first 3 rounds. Despite his heavy blows of his own, he probably was on the wrong end of the judges' scorecards.
We talk about Barrett Thompson's chin. It's time to talk about Mike Gear's chin. He's taken some huge shots, and he's asking him, come on, fight me. It just reminds me, again, of those Rocky movies at this point, because what else is there to go? These guys, both of them should have been knocked out about 6 times by now, if not more.
Yeah, both these guys displaying an absolute will to win as they continue fighting. Mike Gear moving forward. Barrett Thompson counter-punching like the best of them as he continues to land punches. That one a hammer fist to the back of Mike Gear's ear, a big right hand, and a spinning back fist in response. And just now a slapping backhand. Didn't bother spinning with that backhand, just threw it at Gear. That one caught Thompson. He may have a granite chin. The ribs may be a different story as he took that one to the body and went off running.
Yeah, these two guys, you look at this crowd, if you talk about why MMA is so popular, you're looking at it right here. These two guys are just throwing at one another and showing charisma at the same time, and showing that all the exchanges between the two of them, the subtle exchanges, are what's making this fight that much more spectacular.
Both guys coming at it, 1 minute, 10 seconds remaining here in this main event of the evening. Title on the line, 185-pound amateur will go to one of these two men in less than a minute as they head towards the final seconds of our 5th and final round. Barrett Thompson coming forward, needing a right hand for his trouble as he keeps dancing around now, and Mike Gear cuts him off.
Yeah, these two guys are going at it, now throwing kicks, but I think Barrett Thompson, he's down. I think he might just be tired. He continues to go back up again. Wow, Barrett Thompson slipped on the sweat, and who's to blame him? There's a ton of it there. These guys are just trading. 24 seconds remain now.
Mike Gear looked confused when Barrett Thompson got up. He thought he might have done it, but confused and frustrated nevertheless. He has won this fight, or he may win this fight. The judges' scorecards, just 10 seconds to go in this fight as Mike Gear and Barrett Thompson, one of them will be your 185-pound champion as these two continue to fight to the bell. What a finish for these two warriors as they go the full distance. What a fight. You cannot ask for more in your main event.
That was a spectacular showing by both these men, and you look at Barrett Thompson on his knees, and somewhere he didn't end up for that whole fight. That was amazing. Those two guys were at it. You look at the medics checking them out right now, the doctor on Barrett Thompson's side, the medic on Mike Gear's side. Both of them are bleeding from the mouth, and we're going to go to a decision, and an amazing fight between these two guys. We look at the replay here. This is the 5th round. A kick, a huge shot there by Mike Gear, and down and slipping on some sweat, and right back up is Barrett Thompson. You cannot question the chin or the heart of both of these amazing fighters. There you look and see Barrett Thompson giving the camera a thumbs up. He put everything into this. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a tough decision for him to win, although he had an ability to get in there. It wasn't a dominating performance by Mike Gear,
And Barrett Thompson landed some very vicious shots, so we'll see what the judges say. I think this one is going to be a fairly close fight. So the official decision is in. We go to Jaden Ants, who's in the center of the cage.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now have the official decision brought to you by Essential Energy Services. The winner by unanimous decision in the red corner, Mike Gear!
Mike Gear, your new 185-pound champion. He's going to be in the center of the cage after Ari Toe puts on that belt.
To find out more about Hard Knocks Fighting and upcoming Hard Knocks events, please visit hardknocksfighting.com.
In the Rig Pig Apparel blue corner, he's 0-1 as a professional, 29 years old, and stands 5 feet, 7 inches tall. He weighed in at 145 1/2 pounds, fighting out of Team Capstar from Extreme Couture, out of Toronto. Please welcome Hard Knocks fighter, Reza Kamali! And in the Ralph's Texas Bar and Steakhouse red corner, he's 2-3 as a professional, 31 years old, and stands 5 feet, 6 inches tall. He weighed in at 145 1/2 pounds, fighting out of True North Combat Sports from Yellowknife. Please welcome Hard Knocks fighter, Patrick! This bout will be contested under professional rules. The referee in charge of the Hard Knocks action is Mr. Elvis Lyon.
So our first professional matchup of the night sees Reza Kamali out of the blue corner taking on Patrick Besada coming out of the red corner. The shorter Muay Thai trunks on Kamali, the more traditional MMA trunks on Besada, and a little more ink on the torso if you're trying to tell them apart. Leg kick thrown, answered with a couple 1-2s. And again, you can look for Kamali to try and strike as much as he can. A nice attempt at a head kick there, but just missed the mark as Besada stepped back.
Very good technical kicking here by Reza Kamali, and a nice catch there, and some big punches being landed, and immediately, and just swarming over him, is Patrick Besada, very much like his brother. Sees that opportunity to swarm and does immediately.
Again, knows he needs to limit the space he gives Reza Kamali, respecting the striking and wanting to go down to the ground as soon as he could.
Good positioning, being patient here on the ground. Again, it's a chess game on the ground, so you don't need to rush. You just need to be effective when you do choose to strike.
Interesting for Besara, though, knowing he needs to go to the ground to keep Kamali at bay. However, two of his 3 losses have come by submission while on the ground. So a kind of catch-22. Knowing that your losses have come via the ground game, but knowing that you need to get to the ground if you want to limit the damage of your opponent.
Absolutely, and it's something that, and we talk about a nice switch again. Both fighters here, Reza Kamali was able to switch, and then Patrick Besara right back, and they're right in front of us. Best view as an announcer here, and some good punches being landed by Patrick Besara.
Besada trying to work Kamali, trying to limit the damage here as Besada's been on top for the majority here in the first of 3 5-minute rounds now that we're in the professional ranks. And of course all the amateur rules that we've been fighting under over the previous 6 fights this evening no longer apply. Knees and elbows, of course, now legal, and we do see an elbow there from Besada from the top.
And it's a nice crisp elbow, so it's hitting and then back to a good solid position. I always feel when I'm close like this, I don't want to be saying too many things because it feels like coaching. So I try and stay a little quieter when they're up close. But they seem to be a little far away and probably not listening to me.
Well, an interesting attempt at a choke here from Kamali. He's got his leg and shin across the neck of Basara, and he's pulling his head down, trying to choke him out from there. But Basara able to pop out and get free, and now Kamali able to use that to get to his feet.
Yeah, good knee there, and now Kamali is going to be able to use his Muay Thai, and a nice strike there, and we'll see some more stand-up action. It's 2 minutes left on our feature fights clock. We're in the first round of a scheduled 3 rounds at 145 pounds.
Basara now has Kamali up against the cage. Continuing to work, the knee there coming from Kamali. A little bit of a height advantage for Kamali, even though he only stands 5'7". He's still got about 2 or 3 inches on Basara.
And I think Basara realized it because the first knee he tried to throw to the chest, and I don't think it landed. And so now he's decided that if he's going to throw knees, he's going to throw them to the thighs of Kamali and try and take away that power base to be able to kick.
Again, another knee to the leg of Kamali. Basara's had his way positionally with Kamali here in round number 1. With just a minute left, it's been the majority of time up against the fence or in a dominant position on the ground for Basara, who backs off after Kamali tried to land that standing guillotine. A front kick there, and getting out of the way was Kamali.
A little bit of taekwondo from Basara. Oh, a running kick. Sounded really good.
Sounded very good from here as Basara lands the big kick to the midsection of Kamali.
He's following the UFC Undisputed, striking flying kicks, flying punches, spinning back fists from distance. It works in the game.
Big breaths being drawn by Basara here as Kamali tries to land another punch. Found himself off balance, looking for the quick up kick there, and was unable to score it. And Basara now landing a couple leg kicks here to end the round on what has been a good round for Basara here, but looking tired towards the end of round 1, drawing those big breaths and looking resigned about having to go in and throw those punches.
And a lot of these guys set up their training to be able to recover in short amount of time. So they train hard sprinting or hard sparring and a good kick and a follow-up punch by Basara. And they train and then they recover very quickly and then back into 5 minutes of hard work. And it looks like Basara looks very energized coming in, and we'll see if he's able to hold that for 5 rounds. A big swing, just misses, and now a takedown by Patrick Basara.
A nice throw there from Basara, and again lands on top of Kamali. You can again see him trying to work that
into mission control.
That leg out under the neck, but now in the full guard, stretching Basara out. Basara also postured up to try and land a couple punches.
And there we go. I was supposed to say he's pushing him right up back to hear a bit more of our coaching advice, but turns out that they're a little further away as they continue to drop strikes. And I think this is more of a little bit of a rest here for Patrick Basara, and being told by the official that he's got to work. And an arm isolated here and back in immediately. I think Patrick Basara had a little momentary lapse of concentration, and Reza Kamali almost was able to isolate one of those arms. And now trying to pass is Patrick Basara.
Kamali, every time Basara gets him up against the cage, manages to find a way to put his foot on the cage and push off and get a little bit of distance so that Basara can't use the cage as a weapon. Nice elbow there from the top as Basara, again, you can't afford to give up this amount of time with your opponent on top of you like this. We've seen it in several decisions already tonight that the guy in the third, the guy with the dominant position gets the win on the judges' scorecards.
Yeah, and Basara is earning every one of these takedowns and is staying busy. He's got Kamali pushed up again with his head and takes away that foot off the cage defense that he is. And again, a bit of trying to isolate an arm and trying to get free, and big bombs being dropped by Basara in kind of a how dare you try and armbar me fashion.
And Basara quick to jump on Kamali again. In the last round, Kamali was able to use that submission attempt for a break and the ability to pop back up, but unable to do so here. And with just over 2 minutes left, as per our feature fight clock, again, it's Basara on top and Kamali doing what he can to try and escape from the bottom, but in the short term, unable to do so.
And just, again, holding on is Basara. You see Kamali looking up to the official saying, what, I'm just sitting here, he's not doing anything. But tough to call somebody up when they're in a submission attempt. But up here now, and a nice knee to the head, and back standing. Now guillotine, a standing guillotine, and this is now, I think, my 9th time calling a Hard Knocks event, and I think every single time somebody tries one of these standing guillotines and ends up on their back, and it's something, again, I'm not an MMA expert. I've been watching it. I'm a fan. I'm a wrestler, and I've done some training, but this is something that I keep trying to say. The standing guillotine to your back in late rounds does not work because both fighters are way too sweaty, and if you do hold on to it, you end up burning out your arms and tiring yourself out. And this is a prime example. Basara ends back on top, and it looks good to the judges because, again, he's back on top.
They'll stand him up after not much action coming from the bottom, and we'll see how long this fight stays on its feet as Kamali now looks to press forward, hoping to maybe save the round with just under a minute to go in round number 2.
Basara throws big punches, and he's able to take down Kamali again. But some unique defenses going on, showing off the flexibility. He's triangled one arm, and a big punch landed by Basara.
So you can hear the coaches of Patrick Basara letting him know that there are 30 seconds left in round number 2, a round that he has stayed on top for the majority of and has done a good job of working the ground game and winning the round. And he will likely get into the 3rd round for the first time in his career, and for just the 2nd time as a fighter for Reza Kamali. Not a lot of time to get into a 3rd round, but he will also get into a 3rd and final round now.
And the one thing that we have to watch out for is Basara near the end of that round had a haymaker from the top, and it missed, and he landed and folded his right wrist down over top of him. So it probably doesn't have much of an effect, but something to watch out, and we'll see what happens here with the right hand of Patrick Basara. They didn't look at it in the corner, but definitely something I saw here, a haymaker that went into the floor, which always feels terrible.
So Basara and Kamali are trying their cardio out. Looks like a kick in the eye there that caught him in the eye. Kamali backed off his corner, yelling at him to get moving and get going. May have given Basara time to recover, and in doing so has now wound up on the bottom again.
And that's that same takedown, and the issue I have is big punches. Apparently Basara's hand is fine, and now as he's trying to put in for a rear naked choke, Kamali does have his chin underneath, so not too much risk of tapping out at the moment, but as he continues to try and punch from that position, but he definitely wants to break that grip because it feels terrible on your chin.
Basara gives it up in favor of the full mount and has Kamali pinned down, and he'll try and work the ground and pound here, and now scrambles over and maybe looking for another submission there, but is unable to secure it.
Well, he tried the guillotine, and I think he thought it wasn't tight enough, so I'm going to end up on top. So Basara listening to my advice, although I'm sure he couldn't hear me here, and not trying that guillotine to finish it off. But there's a couple times, and this is the 3rd time that a trip takedown is worked on Reza Kamali. So this is something that if he's watching this tape, he's going to want to work on the wrestling and being able to feel that and get his hips back, because those takedowns are are coming fairly cheaply for Basara, and he's being able to capitalize, and now working possibly for an arm triangle. He does have his arm in. Now he's going to circle towards the head, and this is going to not end well for Reza Kamali.
Kamali holding his own arm down to maybe take some of the pressure off. But yeah, this looks like it might get a little deeper as Basara tries to work his way around. And talking to Kamali as he works his way around. Now it looks like there's a little space there for Kamali to get a breath, and so this likely won't finish the fight, and doesn't with a little more than 2 minutes gone here in round number 3, the third and final round in this first pro fight of the night. And again, it's been all Patrick Basara to this point. He's been on top, he's been in control, he's been dominant from the top position in all 3 rounds, Jeremy.
Well, and had he ended up in that arm triangle with fresh arms, I think he would have been able to finish it off just by being able to squeeze tight. But at this point, if people at home, again, if you're not familiar with MMA, if you don't train in MMA, grab some lemons and put them above your head and squeeze them for 15 minutes straight so that you can feel how it feels to have your arms dead on you. These are being thrown, but they're being thrown from the shoulder, these punches, and not from the elbow and from the bicep. So that's your arms do get a little bit weary after this long of a fight.
Basara now dropping big bombs. That last one got through, and trying a big up kick to the face of Basara, but he backs off and lets Kamali get up. And again,
nice
with
punch.
The striking background of Kamali, you got to wonder if that might not have been the best choice.
Well, it seems to be getting the better of the striking, does Basara, because he's not afraid to get in on the kicks and get in and get hit. Kamali's not coming forward like that, and every time he does, Patrick Basara is just hitting him, and a nice teak there pushes Rez Kamali back.
Basara now swarming Kamali up against the cage, swinging from the hip, but not connecting. And there, a nice jab from Kamali and a spinning back kick there to try and catch Basara, but Basara stepping out of the way. A big jumping knee, but unable to secure it. And with 54 seconds here, Reza Kamali is going to have to pull off one heck of a submission if he wants a chance to win from this position.
Yeah, it's really tough at this point in the fight because the fighters are so greasy. The only ones that are really effective are a triangle, and even arm bars itself are very difficult because the arms so much sweat, you just end up slipping out. But this has been a pretty dominant performance from Patrick Basara, and I know that he was talking about just going to coaching, but this is a good stepping stone to maybe say, hey, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep fighting. That fight was good for me.
Well, barring disaster striking in the next 15 seconds, Patrick Basara will end this fight the victor and come away evening his record at 3-3. And like you mentioned, Jeremy, he may want to fight again here in the Hard Knocks Fighting Championship after a performance this dominant, and just goes forward with a smile, takes a kick in the belly for his trouble, and they'll get together and smile at center. Basara knowing that he got the better of Kamali in this one, but wanting to talk about it, and he'll go over to shake hands with the coaches.
The winner by unanimous decision in the red corner, Patrick